was playing.
But I didn't put them in the pick'ems, in my pick'ems. So,
On the last one, I missed Caney Creek and picked Dive.
no, you picked Caney Creek, not Cleveland.
I picked Caney Creek.
Yeah.
That was my loss, but I picked Dive.
You picked Diebold,
Yeah, I
yeah.
picked Dive.
Just trying to stay faithful to that 5'9".
Yeah, well, I just turned the speaker on. She said she checked. Somebody needs to stand here and make sure she hears it.
The second question is, I don't know if you got them on this field.
What?
They wanted on that field.
What?
Again, the Astros game.
Yeah, you have to turn 7, go hit the 7 button to TV2.
All right, 7 on the little thingy like this, right?
Yeah,
And then
7 to 2. So it should say on the screen, it should say 7 to 2. Right now it says 7 to 6. Should say 7 to 2.
7 to 2.
Yeah.
2 piece. Welcome back to the Bullet Grill House High School Sports Pregame Show. We're in segment 2. Craig Irwin, Brian Besh, Chris Moran, Coach Vanover sitting in with the Livingston Lion Football Club, and we're going to talk a little bit about Cold Spring Trojans.
All right.
Big win this last week over the Huntington Red Devils, and it was a game that I had penciled in. Cold Springs should have won. Questionable, honestly, with the efforts that Cold Springs has had this year, and going into that game 2-2, coming off of a heartbreaking loss to the Corrigan Camden Bulldogs the week prior. 33-30 was the final there, and Corrigan was able to capitalize on Cold Springs' misfortunes. 2 drives, 2 turnovers, 2 touchdowns for Corrigan, and it makes it hard to capitalize. And I feel like that this game was really a fresh start for the Trojans against the Red Devils. A lot of size on that football team and a lot of talent. I'm just going to say it. I feel like that they're running the wrong offense with the talent that they have. They spread the field out. They got a bunch of big kids, but nobody can catch the ball. And running the spread offense, it just – those 2 combinations don't work. If you can't catch, you can't win.
Yeah.
But Cold Spring gets a big win, 40-0, and it was a important win for the Trojans in a lot of different reasons in my mind. Obviously, we've talked briefly about Coach Stanley and his father coming up missing there in Las Vegas up on Mount Charleston. The weekend prior, they found his dad, or at that time had found somebody and was waiting to have positive identification, and through that week they positively identified him. And so a lot there emotionally for Coach Stanley and the coaching staff, is they're like a family over there, and getting this win this week. 40-0 was the final. Defense pitched a shutout, and I'm going to say this. I feel like the key to this, Easton Dean, the tailback for the Trojans, broke his hand against Corrigan. Well, through x-rays, casting, they clubbed it. Instead of running the ball, they've put him on the defensive side of the ball, and I feel like that Easton Dean at 80% on the defensive side of the ball is more important than Easton Dean at 100% on the offensive side of the ball. They have a tendency, they had him playing outside linebacker. They was running away from him. Jalen Bradford had a huge game on the other side, outside linebacker, as well as Tate Stanford had a huge game at the middle linebacker position for the Trojans. That was huge for them. And pitching a shutout defensively, KJ Harden and Tiger Parker ran the ball phenomenally all night long, and it was like they couldn't stop them with the way they were running the ball. I say all of that. Huntington has potential to be a better football team than what they are. Unfortunately, unless they make some adjustments right now, they're going to have a very long season ahead of them. But a big win for the Cold Spring Trojans as they move in to go get on the road this next week to go play the Crockett Bulldogs. And that game is actually in the Pick'ems, and I don't want to elaborate on it a whole bunch, but I will say this. This last week out of District 9 3A, Crockett was on the road at Shepherd this last week and had Shepherd on the ropes all the way until the 4th quarter. And with having them on the ropes, some very rough officiating from what I understand, and that's coming straight from Coach Robinson And for him to say something bad about anything or anybody, it had to have been really bad. And I've known Miles for a very long time, but coming straight from him, the officiating was pretty rough. Crockett's coach gets ejected from the game. And I'm just going to say this: out of 15 years of calling high school football, I've never seen a coach get ejected. Baseball, yes. Football, have never.
Coach, you've been doing this for a while. You seen a coach get ejected?
Never have.
Crockett's coach gets ejected. Now, my question to you, Coach Vanover, what is the punishment UIL-wise? I know if a player gets ejected, they have to miss
The next game,
The
half
next-
the next,
half the
half
next
the next,
game.
the rest of that game and half the next. Most places, like we have the deal where it's and one, so
Right.
it's a full game sit out for us,
no matter what.
No matter
Okay.
what.
And that's a school or is that a district?
That's our school policy.
Okay. So what's the UIL policy for a coach being ejected?
It's based on the severity level of it, and the UI can do the one game suspension. They can do the 2 game. They can put them in the press box.
Would there be a hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there will be.
And-
But
and-
there's an instant assessment of a penalty, but there's levels of that.
Right.
What it will be. They will have to go in front of they got to go in front of the committee.
Yeah.
At the court, and it's not a fun deal for anything on that, but it can be anywhere from from 0 to the season. I mean, they can basically
Base it off of the severity of the
of what-
incident.
yeah.
Coach says,
Correct.
like, you know what, you're right, I'm gone, and walks away. It could say, hey, you know what, you're going to sit out this
they
next.
get a public reprimand.
Right.
Sit out half or in the press box for half, or
Which,
there's
unless it
different
was just
levels.
something crazy, I wouldn't think that it's anything beyond a public reprimand and don't do it again.
And then probation for
Yeah.
X time, whatever length of year.
And it's, I'm glad you're on the show with us tonight because I didn't know. I've never seen it. So it's like, how do you know if you don't know, And so you being in here, being able to bring that up and talk about that really brings a light to me and having a better knowledge. And I kind of figured that because I know on the baseball side, if a coach gets ejected, you got to go to a hearing and the officials have to report back to the UIL.
correct, yeah.
And I'm sure the same thing is on the football side. So good knowledge and for us to know as we progress on. We talked about the Woodville Dieball game, kind of beat that one away. 21-14 was the final there. And then once again, Cold Spring defeats Huntington 40-0. Steelsby knocks off Western Start 48-27 was the final there. Let's talk about Corrigan for a brief bit as they knock off Hempstead 56-20. And Brian, we talked about it last week, and I'll bring it up again. I feel like Corrigan's really going to have some smooth sailing until they get into Week 10 and look at Centerville.
Yeah, Coach Ratliff won't tell you because he wants his team to take every game seriously. But that final non-district game against Hempstead was his easiest of the season as far as the non-district schedule. He scheduled a really tough non-district schedule. He scheduled just like he's still in 3A. The district is not going to be rough until that final game of the season with Centerville. That should set up for the district championship. Again, he's not going to tell you that, but I'm telling you that. Those two teams are head and shoulders above the rest of the district. Now, in saying that, Groveton's going to give them a challenge because it is a rivalry. That Groveton-Corrigan-Camden game is always a big deal for both those communities. But until that final game of the season, but I think that he would, if you give him some truth serum, I think he would probably tell you that he hates that Centerville game being the final game of the season because he would probably want a few games of buffer between that and the playoffs.
Well, but you look at that schedule there as they defeated Hempstead. They have Normandy and Jewett-Leon at home.
Yeah.
And then they go to West Hardin, and then they will be hosting Groveton at home this year, and then going into Centerville. So you look at that, and I look at the Groveton standpoint as that's a huge game to have at home.
Yeah.
to go in there and win. And Groveton suffered a loss this last week against Alto. That's a big game to have at home to build up going to that Centerville game and kind of really get that momentum going. That's why with Coach Ratliff, I hate that they have a bye, Coach Vanover, I hate he has a bye week this week after getting a huge win over Madisonville. That would have been perfect to roll straight into district play. And I know Coach Vanover agrees with me in that.
Yeah, you when you get the momentum going, you sure don't want to slow it down. And you know, like I said, there's two sides of that coin. Yeah, you rest up and recover and heal any wounds and make any personnel changes or put in some more offense or defensive packages, but the stopping of the momentum is a concern.
And it's got to be, and I agree with you. And as I was doing a podcast last night and was really looking over the schedules, and really that's whenever I seen y'all had a bye this week, and I was like, I was crushed for you. You know, honestly, I was like, man, if there was ever a bad week to have a bye, this is the worst week ever.
He probably wouldn't have been too upset if they rolled the ball out there on Monday and played it again. So. I mean, the defense was really that good. It was really impressive to watch, and just the way that they won that game, it was super impressive, and you didn't want to see it end.
So, Coach, I'm going to ask you this. I know myself and Brian, when we go in and we look at each year in and year out, how much are you relying on underclassmen right now?
A lot more than we have. We've got a very large senior class. This group's been with us for a long time. We've got 22 seniors, but then we've got a mixture. We've got 2 freshmen that are playing and contributing extreme amounts, and we've got about 7 sophomores that are playing up with us most of the time and contributing greatly. And in our juniors, we've got probably 11 juniors that really play too. So we've got a great mixture of old and young, but they're all talented and they all play. Nobody travels that doesn't play.
So with saying that, it's really a blessing for you, right? You got these underclassmen playing in big games against Madisonville. You got underclassmen playing in those big games, and you know, Coach, I've talked to Coach Robinson a bunch. You know, the district he was in last year with Jasper and Carthage and Center, Rusk, and so on. That was like stepping into the environment of playing state championship caliber football teams. And the amount of, yes, and the amount of underclassmen that he had, and I told Miles numerous times, I was like, the amount of experience that those kids are gaining by the speed of that game at that level that they're playing. Whenever y'all drop back to 3A, I'm not going to say it's going to be a breeze, but the game's going to slow down and it's going to clarify for them.
Yeah, that's the key on that part of it. That is true. That's absolutely correct. Playing the speed of the game is no longer a problem for you. The problem is that you've got to maintain your confidence. You got to keep those kids from getting frustrated and beat down and whipped down.
Right.
And where they know they're just getting pummeled every week. And no matter how hard you're competing, you're coming up short 21, 28, 30 points, you know, and you know going in, you really don't have a chance. We won't be confident. Yeah, we're going to give it the old college try, but, okay, right. So you got to fight that battle. So if you can keep them out and keep them healthy and keep them confident through the off season for that next season, now the experience factor comes to play.
Right.
And that's when it takes over.
You guys had a similar situation. Those first years that you were here, it was a matter of having them keep the faith that, look, the program's going in the right direction.
Yep.
We're doing all of the things that we're doing for a reason, and all of a sudden you make the jump from last place to first place.
Yep.
Nobody sees it coming, but you see it coming because you see it on a daily basis.
And our younger kids are used to winning. They're accustomed to winning. We've been able to keep the freshmen and sophomores together and down almost entirely. A freshman totally entirely, and the sophomores, probably 85 to 88% of them have stayed down and stayed together.
Right.
And they've won all the way through 7, 8, 9 JV, and and now it's coming to fruition. So that's the key.
And that is key, and I agree with you. They believe in themselves, and those kids that they played with at the 7th grade level, the 8th grade level, JV level, freshman and/or JV level, they've all stuck together as well.
And they've won at every level, and so we were blessed in not having to sacrifice them to the wolves and play them as 9th and 10th graders in that varsity level competition and just get their brains beat out and their confidence destroyed, or physically hurt. Where, today's society, there's a lot of things, a lot of more fun things to do than practice and play football every week. And so you got to keep them out through that.
And you guys are having to balance that this year because you've got, like you say, a couple of freshmen, but you're really excited about that sophomore class. I know.
Yeah, they really are performing well for us, and they're going to be around for a while. That's the part, and it's a great combination with that large senior class that we've got.
And it is a blessing, and something else that is a blessing is the Bullet Grill House. We're here every Wednesday night recording a high school sports pregame show, and we're blessed enough to have Coach Vanover in the house with us this week as we get ready to move into segment 3. But Chris, what do y'all got coming up here at Bullet?
Well, we talked a little bit in the last segment about some great football games coming up, both NFL, both college. They're out here all the time. We got great food. We've talked about that on some past shows. But, if you want just to kind of munch on something, our loaded chips are an awesome item just to kind of get to share. Or if you're really hungry, get one for yourself. We got the wings, the whole smoked wings, which you can't get anywhere around here. So that's a great choice. But if you don't like the whole smoked wing, now we've added a boneless wing. We've added tenders that you can get. You can get them sauce. So a lot of great choices to go with on food to sit around and catch some great football.
You're listening to the Bullet Grill House High School Sports Pregame Show. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with the pick'ems right after this.